Octagon MMA are bringing their MMA reality TV show to the UK and Ireland. Octagon Challenge is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for 8 of the best prospects from England and Ireland to change their lives. They'll go up against each other to win a professional contract with Octagon MMA worth £25,000 and the prestigious Octagon Challenge belt. Now the fun part is it's England versus Ireland and they're all living under one roof. Expect trash talking from the get-go, mind games, intimidation, and most importantly, some of the best fights you've ever seen. And here's the twist, the lads aren't just living together and fighting each other, they'll be pushed out of their comfort zones every show with a set of unique and wild challenges. The show culminates with the crowning of the Octagon Challenge champion at the AO Arena in Manchester on November 4th. Octagon Challenge England vs Ireland is out now on the Channel 4 Sport YouTube channel and next week on DAZN. Click the link in the description below to have a watch. But for now, enjoy the video. So, Sean Strickland is the new middleweight champion of the UFC, and a lot of people online, big-time MMA fighters and fans alike, are saying Israel Adesanya, despite all of the success that he's had in the UFC, does not deserve an immediate rematch like he got the last time he lost the title. And in this video, I'm going to tell you that he does, and I'm going to tell you why, but it isn't for the reason that people are pointing the finger at Dana White, because Dana White said, you know, he had an off night, maybe we could do the rematch, and everyone's like, yeah, of course you're going to say that. The guy is the cash cow of the UFC. But I don't care about any of that. It's for different reasons. And I also want to talk about what Sean Strickland winning the title really means for fighting. So we'll start with what happened in the actual fight. There's a lot of people saying that Israel Adesanya underperformed. You've got Ian Gary saying it was more what Izzy didn't do than what Sean Strickland did do, which in my opinion is really unfair to not give the credit to Sean Strickland that he deserves. But yes, I accept Israel Adesanya maybe did underperform. I don't think he was that much worse than he usually is, or less energized than he usually is, or slower than he usually is, as Dana White pointed out. For me, it was up there in the mind that I noticed the main change with Izzy. When the fight wasn't going his way, he wasn't willing to die, as he previously has verbalized in the cage when he was busted up and it was going the other guy's way, and he had a choice to make of, am I going to risk everything to get this title or not? And he seemed content to just see the fight out knowing I ain't winning this. And if I try and win it, I'm probably going to get my ass knocked out. So let me just see this fight out. And you know, some people will say, oh, he's rich now, he doesn't need the money anymore, you know, this is what happens with fighters. And okay, maybe, but I don't know, he fights so much, it doesn't seem like it's all about the money for him. And when you're looking at him in the post-fight press conference, yes, he didn't stay long, but when we seen him, he wasn't bitter and wounded and devastated. And then you see him on his Instagram stories after the fight, still partying as if he won. When you're a champion, and you've given everything in your life to become the champion, to have that ripped away from you and to just accept it in the way he has, it's a sign that the ego of a fighter is not quite as attached to his achievements as what it once was. You know, that's a sign of maturing, and you know, maybe there's some positivity within that. But unfortunately, the more immature and insecure you are as a fighter, and the more your self-worth is placed upon what you've achieved in that octagon, usually the better of a fighter you are. Floyd Mayweather is one of the most insecure fighters of all time, and he's one of the most successful. That's not a coincidence. And is he looking so chill on that after party on the bus in his Instagram stories? It's just not what I want to see. If I'm rooting for him to get that belt back, and to lose 2 of his last 3 fights, it almost is becoming a habit now. And that's not what you want to see. You want to see him like Conor McGregor after Nate Diaz beat his ass in that first fight. Wounded, gutted, devastated, heartbroken. He wasn't that. And that's the most worrying thing if you're an Israel Adesanya fan, more than the technicality, because I believe his technical level is up there with the greats of all time. But we'll talk about the technicalities of it, because Dana White, for example, said Izzy looked slow in there. I didn't think so. I think he was made to look slow because the other guy, Sean Strickland, was thinking faster than him. I don't think Sean Strickland for 1 second is faster than Israel Adesanya, but he was thinking ahead, 1 step ahead every single time. And when you're a champion, who defends his title so regularly, more than any other top fighter in the world, MMA or boxing, I don't care. Israel is the #1 true champion in the fight game. You're going to come up against guys who are just a bad style matchup for you, especially in MMA, where you have as many tools as you do. Sean Strickland spars hard every single day. And what does that do? It gets you comfortable in the fire, so that when elite level punchers are throwing hard shots back at you, you're not worried about being within range. It really played into the game plan of how he broke Israel Adesanya down. And I've got a great quote from one of his training partners. He said, if you watch Sean spar anybody, it goes very similar to that. I've seen him spar a bunch of guys, and you can get better at fighting against Sean, but every time someone has their first rounds with Sean, it goes exactly like that, where people are like, what the hell is going on? So with everyone saying Izzy looked off, I've seen this 1,000 times. You can't get better at fighting him, but initially when you run into him, you're very confused. And that is exactly what happened with Izzy. When you look at what Sean did in walking Izzy down, what does Izzy use as his main tools? It's his length, his long legs, his long arms, and you're constantly closing the range and making it an inside fight. And Izzy isn't a majorly powerful guy. He's not going to punch through you the way other fighters do. He needs to walk you onto shots to increase the power using his timing and precision and his reach. And if you remove that by having this Philly shell style that he's kind of adopted, Sean, in taking away the jab through blocking a lot of those long shots and then not allowing him to get off those leg kicks by keeping him walking backwards, and then when he does throw a kick, catching it and going, I got you, motherfucker. It was the perfect storm. Then controlling Izzy with hand fighting to remove his guard to allow him to get his shots. And when Izzy would normally look to swivel off at the waist and counter, Sean was doubling shots up. So in that time frame that he would normally have Izzy to get his shots off, it wasn't there. Where the fight was taking place was bad for him as well. It was getting pushed up against the cage. When you're trying to create that space, you're backed against a wall. There is no more space. It was a masterclass from Sean, and his coaches did a fantastic job of helping Sean read Izzy like a book. And Izzy has become a bit predictable. And that's what happens when you're that guy. When you're the main man with the bullseye on your back, every time you step foot in that cage, people are making notes. Part of this is just the problem with being the best in the world is people pay more attention, and they raise their fucking game against you every single time. You're the cup final, as we say in football. You're the biggest stage of them all. Izzy likes to jump in and out, and again, you can't really do that when you're constantly walking backwards for 25 minutes. And it is exhausting. Sean kind of broke Izzy mentally, and that was the fucking freakiest thing about this fight, is that at the end of the fight, when normally you'd expect Izzy to pour it all on and try and secure the knockout, Izzy was happy to get the fuck out of there. And that's really worrying. I think one of the main things that was exposed about Izzy, as someone who is often called the greatest of all time and compared to the Anderson Silvas of this world, is there was no plan B. We've seen Anderson Silva be dominated before by a Chael Sonnen, and you're thinking, no fucking way is he pulling this out. Boom, triangle. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well, by the way. Izzy hasn't got that. In regards to the fight itself, I just want to focus on the knockdown, which was spectacular. He's up against the cage, and there is no fear at all from Sean Strickland to get right up close and personal here. And as you can see, Izzy is trying to get his lead hand out to control the situation. Sean controls the lead hand immediately. Izzy drops it, tries to buy space. Sean avoids the kick. This is flawless fundamentals. I mean, defensively, it's so sound. And yet, it's nothing flash, but he's just reading him so well. They must have done hours on this guy, revising him. Sean anticipates, and bang. I mean, that is the punch of the century. If you're Sean Strickland, man, what a... Oh, and straight shots are faster than looping ones. I mean, it's just really that simple. It's not that Izzy is slow. It's that Sean is outthinking him. So this jab from Sean is merely just to open the guard of Izzy to deliver this nuclear bomb down the middle. And I've got to say, any questions anyone has about Israel Adesanya's chin, they have been answered, because Sean Strickland might not be the biggest knockout puncher in MMA, but that was a hell of a shot, and he took it like a champion. That would have knocked 99% of fighters out, in my opinion. It was flush as it gets, and he defended well. He hung in there, but it's what it took out of him. He was out of the fight from this moment on, in my opinion. Like, yeah, he was there and he was still fighting, but he never regained dominance at any point again in that fight. And that's so key. When a fighter puts it on you, you need to get his motherfucking respect back and go, I'm the guy, not you. This ain't going that way. And he never did it. There was never a point in the fight again where I thought Sean Strickland was in major danger. And Izzy actually complimented Sean Strickland's coach, which I want to highlight here.
After the fight was over in the back, and Izzy came up to me, he's like, you saved that man's life. And I was like, oh yeah, how so? And he goes, you kept calling out my reads. And I was like, yeah, because I saw what you were setting up. And one of the things was the southpaw drop step. Izzy drop backs into southpaw, drop step into southpaw. He would throw his southpaw cross at Sean's right hand, and Sean was parrying it like this. And I yell at Sean, I go, bro, he's going to same side head kick you. Like, it's gonna come right behind it. You know?
Mad props to this guy, because this is what you can do with a coach who's in there with you, who's almost controlling you like a fucking PlayStation controller. Despite all of this, I think we need to show a bit of sympathy for Israel Adesanya. Like, if you defend your title the way this man has, like a true champion does, against all these different styles, you are going to constantly come up against guys who have studied you, have raised their game, and have some answers to what you do well. And Khabib Nurmagomedov knew that. He said in multiple interviews, if you keep going and you keep defending long enough, you're going to get beat. He knew it. Why do you think he dropped the title and got the fuck up out of it? He knew exactly what was going to happen to him. You don't get perfection in MMA like you do in boxing. But Israel Adesanya has carried the UFC on his back for a good few years now. And he has been beaten before in worse circumstances than this. He got battered by Pereira, and he came back and knocked his ass out. He's shown he can make adjustments. Worryingly, he didn't make adjustments in the fight, but he can do it after the fight. He's proven that. So Izzy has consistently defended like a true champion 3 to 4 times a year since winning the belt. And let me explain to you how often the other top fighters in boxing and in MMA fight. John Jones fought once in the last 3 years. Francis Ngannou fought 3 times in the last 3 years. Miocic once in the last 3 years. So the light heavyweight division isn't even worth talking about unless Pereira takes the throne. There's no stars up there. Other stars, Conor McGregor, really? Are we actually going to... Leon Edwards doesn't fight as much as Usman did when he was the champ, and I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter saying we actually didn't appreciate what we had in Usman. He was a real defending champion, and they're seeing shots at Leon, but for whatever reason, we can't get the fucking fight on to go with Colby. Colby fights once a year. Hamza has been basically a missing person for the last 12 months, and he was a mega star in the making, and the UFC just... fuck the momentum. Then when we look at boxing, Canelo fights twice a year, which is decent for a money man, but how often are those fights really ones that you're desperate to see? Crawford loved his last fight, but it's once a year. Tank Davis once or twice a year, and do you actually know who the fuck he's fighting half the time? He's not even challenging himself to fight the best. Fury once or twice a year, and it'll be fucking MMA fighters at this rate. AJ once or twice a year. Wilder, same. Israel Adesanya has done the hard yards to carry the UFC. He has had that company on his fucking back for the last 5 years. And while he was outfought in almost every department, didn't look like he even wanted to be in there at the end, if he says to the UFC, I want that rematch because I know I can make the adjustments and I know I can do what I did last time I got beat, which is come back and prove my point, how are we not going to reward the guy who keeps fighting when the rest of the fucking fight world can't hold a candle to this fucker? How am I supposed to support fighters when they're barely even fighting, half of them? This man shows up despite all the money he's getting, despite having every hungry contender in one of the hardest divisions in fighting ready to rip his head off, and puts it all on the line regularly. So if we're not going to reward him, then how are we going to slag off all of these other fighters who don't take the hard fights? You need to have some consistency, and for me, Israel Adesanya deserves that pat on the back to go, you know what, yeah, you got your ass kicked, but you've earned the rematch by defending like a true champion, like the true champion of this generation in any fight sport. Now, I'm off my soapbox. So, cheers to Izzy. You've been a fucking fantastic champion. And for all you didn't perform as well as you wanted to on the night. You're that guy. Now on to Sean Strickland. You are a fucking legend. All right. Now, I don't agree with everything this guy says, right? Everyone has to preface everything we ever say about this guy with that, because he's mental. But you know what? I watch a lot of sports, and I'm sick of this woke bullshit that we're bombarded by in football, in a lot of sports. And you just want someone who is unashamedly them, and that man is that. He doesn't give a shit. He's one of the most charismatic people in sport. You know, you watch his interviews and you realize the trauma this guy has been through and the abuse he was put through as a kid. Bloody hell. And to see him come through that, and yes, he's scarred. Yes, he's broken a bit. Yes, he says crazy shit and is politically incorrect. And, you know, I don't agree with a lot of it, you know, at times. But he's fucking human. And there's something about him that just makes you want to root for him. Because how can I not, you know, have a little bit of empathy for the guy? He says, you know, we grew up in rough circumstances. I got the crap kicked out of me as a kid, and he hasn't been shown a lot of love, you know what I mean? And there he is, fucking middleweight champion of the world, and he's just beaten one of the greatest of all time, and not just beaten him, he's absolutely cleaned him out. And even then, if you were to say to us, what is he great at? It's kind of hard to say, because he's just a really well-rounded guy. Kind of like Michael Bisping. He has that energy. When other people didn't take this fight, Dricus du Plessis didn't show up. He was like, yeah, I'm there. Just like Bisping did. When I say he's not necessarily great at one thing, that's not me having a knock on him. What I mean is athletically. I wouldn't say he's the biggest, the strongest, the quickest, but he's clever. People might look at him and think, oh, he's a bit of an idiot sometimes because he comes out with wild shit. He is no fool. To go from where he went from, as he said, growing up white trash, struggling, to being middleweight champ of the world and outthinking what is a genius in Adesanya. Make no mistake about it, this man is smarter than everyone gave him credit for. And I think he might be the star that the UFC never wanted, because, you know, they're merging with the WWE now. They're trying to be very, you know, we're a good, clean company and everyone can invest in us. The share price has gone up. And meanwhile, you've got basically Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5 as your middleweight champion. I seen a video of him the other day. There was guns all over his house. The man's a wild motherfucker, but I love it. I do love it. Sean O'Malley was supposed to be the next big thing in the UFC. Sean O'Malley's title win interview was, what, 600K? Sean Strickland was well over 2 million. There's a reason for that. People were like, whoa, this crazy motherfucker actually pulled it off. There's a million funny interviews with him, right? This is one I just pulled out real quick.
How much money would it take for you to suck a d***, honestly?
$1
million. Million, 2 million. 3 million, 4 million, 5 million.
No.
I don't know if this is an offer. I think it's just hypothetical, just to be clear.
No money.
I cannot be sold or bought. I can't be bought.
I'm doing an interview with Nina because she has 1.3 million followers on Instagram and her titties hang out.
They're
it
not
makes it more
hanging
awkward.
out.
It makes it more awkward because
they're propped up.
You know what makes this more awkward, you
They're
guys?
just propped
This
nicely.
is a real factual thing I'm saying. She intentionally makes her titties hang out for me.
They
and
don't
her
hang
boyfriend
out.
is holding a camera while I'm trying not to look at her
They're not
titties.
hanging.
What I love about this fucker is the thing that you're not supposed to say but is actually true, he will often just say it out loud, right? He's like if Carl Pilkington was a bad motherfucker, you know? It's this kind of adorable quality about him that you can't be in a room with him and worry about getting your feelings hurt, because he's going to say that thing that everyone's thinking. The problem for everyone now is he's the champ, so everyone's going to want to interview him and everyone's going to get their feelings hurt, and I'm going to fucking love it. He has the potential to be the anti-hero of the UFC. Like the Stone, ironically, they've just partnered with the WWE. He could be the Stone Cold Steve Austin, who you can't control, so don't even try. And like I said, he's smarter than people give him credit for, which was proven in this clip.
Here's the thing about Andrew Tate, man, is and as young men, I can see why you guys look up to him, because you are moralist men. You have no values. You have no positive male role models. So you latch onto a piece of shit like Tate, who has money, who has women. You say, no, I want to be like Tate. All my problems in the world, they're because women are fucking me. They're because this is fucking me. No, that's not it. So Andrew Tate is a con artist You ever watch an interview where he goes on in detail about how he pretended to be a cam girl and used to rob people's savings, tend to be men, and have them send them $100K?
No, he'd go on there and pretend to be the girl.
Yeah, pretend to be a girl and have them send. So this guy who is a utter con artist, and he shows no remorse.
Bro, just to be clear, if you're messaging these OnlyFans girls, please get help. Fuck me.
To see the way he talked with no remorse, he was like, nah, fuck them. Fuck them. I'm a con artist. I'm a piece of shit. So Andrew Tate, you guys, if you want to look up to a guy like Jordan Peterson.
This is a real badass, by the way. Not someone who got his world titles on eBay. This is a real world champion who sees it for exactly what it is. So, yeah, I like Sean. He's opened up about the darkness of what he's been through and how he wanted to murder someone. And it's not, it's hard to listen to some of it. But I've been around guys like this before when I was growing up. My dad was in prison, for Christ's sakes. And you think to yourself, he found an outlet for this rage and this trauma that he was put through in fighting. We're all lucky this man's fighting. Fucking hell. Everyone around him is lucky. He gets to go and beat the shit out of people every fucking day. But the point is men like him have been being created for thousands of years, but they were able to vent it and get it out on the battlefield when they had a fucking sword and a kilt, right? They were swinging an axe into someone's skull. And if they didn't have that outlet, they'd be dead or in jail. And fighting gives these young men who have been through this shit an outlet to be great. They're not toxic masculinity just because violence is within them. Like, we were supposed to be violent. This is not an unusual thing. But because we're now in a civilized society, there's nowhere for these men to go. And that's why we need martial arts taught in schools for young men who are like Sean Strickland. We need boxing gyms. We need more MMA gyms because these men aren't bad people. They're just built for a different time zone. And unfortunately, we're in this woke world, in the civilized world that we're in now, where these guys are just tossed aside into jail and thrown away like shit. But he's now made a fucking hell of a life for himself and for his family, and he's not a bad guy. He's just been through a lot, right? And I think he's on the right path now, so well done to him. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I wrong? Should Izzy Adesanya be given a UFC title shot or not? I mean, there's some great fights out there. There's the Strickland fight. Pereira can come back down. There's all sorts of things that they can do with Hamzat fighting for Paulo Costa. I'm really looking forward to that one. So let me know some of your dream matches and how you would build out this middleweight title picture. Don't forget to like the video. Stay subscribed to the Pain Game YouTube channel. And I'll see you on the next one.